Right, I just wanted to do that before I forget. All right, my screen looks terrible. I don't know why it's so bright and limey, but we'll go with it. That's all I got. Okay, so right now, quick review. When you are looking at my screen, what should my cursor look like right now? Am I in the cursor that I should be in 90% of the time? Yep. Good. So I want to be V. Yep, so it looks like this. We want it to look like a cursor with that four-headed four-headed arrow. So this is V. It's our move command. Where was I before? Do you know what this is? Okay, and what's the shortcut with your keyboard? Why is it G? You guys remember why paint bucket is G? Other than, good God, why are you G? It's because it's the gradient tool. So by default, this is the gradient menu. And when we right click on it, we get to the paint bucket tool. I don't know how else you can remember that, but that's what it is. Paint bucket, gradient, either way you're painting, so good. So I'm gonna switch back over to V. And what I'm gonna do right now is show you guys again how we can mask this chair. Now, the way that we've been looking at masking was really just like a one and done. See what the selection method does, mask it, and then be done with it. But as you guys saw from the rubric, eventually we are going to get to a point, you know what, I'm assuming that you guys saw the rubric, but let's look here. So when I award you guys 5 points that buildings are masked precisely, you get 5 points when you guys meet the learning objective by showing me that your work is done professionally and meets all of the assignment requirements. And so last class, it was really just let's practice these and see what they do. That was really the learning objective. What do each one of these selection methods do? Now from here on out in our class, we're not just going to be clicking on the screen using one selection method, but we're going to start combining all of them to get a really clean selection from any object, whether it's a chair or a Volkswagen, anything that we want to put into an image. We don't want it to look like it's been photoshopped. And part of what gives it away is that there might be a white silhouette that still remains around it. That kind of gives it away. So tonight I'm going to be combining several different techniques, and then I'm going to turn it over for you guys to try. So tonight's just kind of like a watch and learn essentially, but then I want you guys to try because remember last class everybody had a different favorite selection method. For example, I love quick selection and polygonal. But I think that, if I remember correctly, a lot of people in here like the magnetic selection tool. And who knows, when you were doing your assignment, that may have changed. Maybe you ended up liking something else. But it's just a matter of being able to combine all of them and then edit your mask once it's on there. So to begin, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. And remember, to zoom in, you hold the Alt key down, and then you go roller ball in or out. To zoom all, like if you go too far in or too far out, it's Control 0. Maybe it's mad at me. There we go. Control 0. That should do a zoom all for you. Okay, now from here I have, this one's going to be pretty straightforward because with this new file I only have one layer that I'm working with. I don't have 5 that I need to turn off, but I just have this one that I'm working with. So to begin, again, I'm going to go to my favorite. I'm going to go to the quick selection tool. And with the quick selection tool, there is a circle on my screen right now. And that circle actually tells me about how big of a range it's trying to detect colors. So if I come down here to the leg, see how this circle's a little bit too big? So at any point, see how up here I was doing pretty good, but then at that last stroke, not so good? I can hit Control Z, which is undo, and it gets rid of that last selection. So again, I can add, and if I'm okay, I can keep going, but if I do something like this, or even like that, I can hit Control Z once, and then twice, and kind of go back a little bit, right? What I'm gonna do right now is I'm going to go to my brush and I'm actually going to shrink it down. And let me try one other thing. Okay, so the brackets on your keyboard, so right above your enter key, there's the slash, right? When you're in a brush, if you hit the bracket keys, you can actually adjust the size of your brush without coming up here. Okay, so I'm going to make this a little bit smaller. And again, what the brush size does in my quick selection tool is it's just detecting the area of color. So if that brush is really big, let me make it big again. Let me go bigger, 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 bigger. If it's back at 30 or 40, do you see how I have white and green within that brush? So it's thinking, okay, she's trying to select something that's lime green and white. But by making my brush smaller, I can make it a little bit more exact. So again, change your brush size to whatever suits you best. So now I'm zooming in a little bit more. Right now, by default, this is something that I haven't talked about yet, so this will be new. But our quick selection is set to plus, which means that it's always adding something. Do you guys see where I'm kind of dancing on my screen right now? So I rarely use these, but if you want, you could always do minus. But what I like to do is on my keyboard, if I hold the shift key, sorry, the alt key, do you see how a minus sign comes up? So where there's a plus right now, if I hold alt, there's a minus. That means I can go through and subtract something that I've already selected. Okay, let me go do a zoom all again. I'm gonna call that good, except for, let me zoom in again. See right here, I got this kind of crazy bump. I'm gonna hit the alt button again and try to subtract that. Okay, so why don't you guys try that on your own? I haven't even masked it yet, but just try maybe the quick selection, play with the brush sizes. So tell me again, what keys do you hit to change your brush size? The brackets, good. What key can you hit while you are in selection mode to deselect something? Not completely. Just to, yep, alt does it, but to completely deselect, what would that be? Control D, good. So I'll write those up here. So this, no, that's not good. So I'm just gonna write bracket keys plus or minus brush size. Okay. Alt subtracts from selection. And then Control plus D is deselect. I'm going to come around to see how things are looking. If there's something that's not working the way you want it to work, let me know. Okay. That looks pretty good. Nice. Quick selection? Cool. Chris, right?
Yeah.
Oh, so type down here and open up Photoshop for me. And then while you're in Photoshop, you can just open up your file. And then in your Finder, you can always right-click on a file and go to Open With. So here, go to Enterprise ID. Yep. And now use your Bruin email. And it might just log you right in. That looks good. Do you feel comfortable with that? Cool. If you feel comfortable with the first chair, you can move on to the second chair. That looks great. You can go ahead and mask it now. You've got all of it selected. Yeah, perfect. Yep, that looks good. So if you feel like you've got it all, you can go ahead and click the mask button. You can see the transparency behind it. That's pretty good. Do you want to try to mask it and see how it looks? Right next to it. What are they saying?
A nard. Oh, yeah. How are we? Honestly, it's like, how do you pronounce it?
Oh, Naima.
Naima.
Yes.
Okay. This is some horseradish.
What? Wait, I'll be back. Do your work first. I'm gonna come
No,
help
I
you with
know
that later.
most of it. No, yeah,
No.
let me open the layer.
Barfus Maximus.
Barfus Max.
Garbage. No, that is so Photoshop. Deal with that later.
Exactly, it is so Photoshop.
I know. Rick, I think you're selecting opposite. So go to open. We're just gonna go back to continue. And then with your quick select, grab the chair and not go right back. So you did minus mode. Go to plus mode. There you go. Now you should be okay.
Will you at least help me with this sometime?
Yes. When you get to, we'll have lab time tonight. I'll help you drink lab time. How much? It might. So right now you might not be able to see it, but let's say you dragged and dropped in the background, then you might see it. So I'll show you how to kind of clean that up if you look obvious. So just the hardness sometimes helps, but the hardness is only if you go through with the brush back on top of it. Yes.
Okay, yeah, last question. How do you turn the brightness up?
On your monitor?
Yeah, because this wasn't plugged in all of it, so I don't plug it in again.
In the search bar, type in display. Go up to display settings, sorry. Okay, there you go. Turn it up. It's free. Turn it up all the way. Do you have it selected? Good. Now go ahead and mask it. So click the mask.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It looks like Japanese flag. There you go. Nice. That looks good. The only thing that I would say clean up maybe that little bit right there. So when we come back next week, what you guys will see is we are going to start taking. Oh, come back over here. There you go. And now you can mask it. It looks good. I think you can go ahead and. Oh, or Alt. In this case, it would be Alt to a minus. It should, yeah. I don't know why it was so slow, but see how it's there now?
It's just
That was
slow
weird.
and the flash.
So it's already plus. You don't have to do shift. It's already plus, but that Alt was really slow.
Yeah, but I.
No, that worked.
I
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and how to zoom because of this and.
Yep, so it's easier if you hit the, I think you can do it here. Hit Alt again, and then use your roller ball to go up and, so your roller ball, you can use that, but even your mouse, yeah, you can do it that way too.
Without.
And then Control-0 does all of it.
Yeah.
Sorry, Control and then the number 0. There you go. Yep. Now just hit the mask button, you should be okay. Okay. Francis, you got yours okay? You're gonna get carpal tunnel, be so careful. I had one of those and it was really hard on my wrists. See how it goes. But if you need to bring in a roller ball, like Bluetooth one, it might help. Oh, you guys, this is so awkward. There's 14 minutes of me walking around and like 2 minutes of me lecturing. I forgot to hit pause. Hey everybody, if you're still listening. So what I wanted to do with this is I was going to mask it, but see how I forgot this part right here? And none of you guys forgot it, so well done. All of you guys went back and added it. But remember that in the future, if you do, there are several ways to come back and add it. The basic thing to remember is that first, make sure you're working on your mask and not your layer. So it's really subtle, but right now what's selected? My layer or my mask? Good. And now? Good. So whenever you see that something's not working, especially if you're masking, take a look at your layers and see which one's actually selected. So I'm working on my mask. I'm going to select that area. And the fundamental concept of masking is that if something is painted black, it's going to be invisible. So on that note, what do I need to do with this white area that I don't want to see anymore? Paint it black. Yep. And what are the techniques that we reviewed to get color in that area? Bucket. G for gradient. Yep. Or B for brush. So if I go to B for brush, my brush is black. And even here, if I do my brackets, see it getting smaller and bigger? I can make it as big. And so it's not actually putting, it is painting it black, but it's painting my mask black. So I'm going to undo that. That's where the color's going. Now, if you ever see anything like this, let me turn this off. If you ever see anything like this, it means that you're not on your mask, but you're actually painting your layer. So I just wanted to review these concepts one more time. Okay. Here's one chair. Let me do this chair as well, and I'm going to show you a couple more concepts that I combine. So again, I always start with the wand. These will be easy to add. The highlights might get a little bit tricky. What was that? Okay. The smaller brush tool definitely helps. This is tedious but effective. Okay. And let's say I have the whole chair now, but do you see how over here I get a little bit wobbly? Do you see where it's starting to pop out like that? Sometimes, to make things look a little bit cleaner, instead of clicking over and over again, so I'm going to actually deselect everything. What I would probably do for these chairs is I would go to my poly lasso and I would actually just trace around this. And I think it'll end up looking a lot smoother than if, and if you guys can see, so I've zoomed in quite a bit. If you don't see what you want to see, you can always take your cursor off the screen and kind of move around. Yeah, Sabrina?
Can you use two tools and like on the same layers?
Yeah.
Polygon and then the lasso?
So let me switch over real quick. Sometimes it's easier than others, but let me grab all of this and then I will pretend that I have most of the chair selected, and then I'll continue using the quick selection for the black areas. How's that? Let's see if these two play nicely together. Okay, so I'm going to hit enter, so that's selected. And now if I go to my magic wand, do you see how nothing got deselected? Right? I just went right to my magic wand. It's still in plus mode, so I can just go ahead and keep adding. And then if I hit L, I can go back to lasso. And with this one, do you see that when I clicked on it, everything went away? Okay, let me hit Control. So if I hit Control Z, it'll bring it back. This is one of those situations where I want to hit Shift to add. If you look at my screen, do you see how there's a plus sign that pops up? So that will just kind of come with experience. And even with that, so Sabrina, when you asked me, I was like, yeah, you can, but hang on one sec. It takes me a minute to remember because when I went from lasso to magic wand, I didn't have to hit shift. I just went right to magic wand and started selecting. But when I went from magic wand back to the lasso, I had to hit the shift key to let it know that I was still adding. Okay, so you can do it. You just have to pay attention to how Photoshop is going to add it for you. So go ahead and try to finish up these chairs. Yeah, Hayden?
Can you backtrack
Hit the backspace key. Okay. And then, Alex, did you have a question? Oh, you're fine. Where we're going with this is, in just a little bit, we are going to hop into this file right here. And this is a project that a firm that I worked with, we did this project. It's called Art Space. It's affordable apartments downtown. That's subjective. Who knows what affordable means anymore? Rent is ridiculous. Okay. But the unfortunate thing is it was a really cloudy day, so there's essentially no sky in this photo. So what we're going to try to do tonight is isolate the buildings from the sky, and that includes all of these building elements, so that we preserve everything, including like the satellites, the antenna, all of that stuff. And then next week when we come back, we're going to learn how to transpose new backgrounds, start pulling in different elements with different files. So go ahead and keep moving with these. And then in about 10 minutes or so, I'm going to check in, and we will do a check to see how successful you were with your mask within your file, and then we'll do a little bit more cleaning up. I want to show you guys what I want to see before you turn your stuff in tonight, okay? So if you have to come back to one of your chairs that are complete, meet me back here in your layer menu. And I'm going to show you what I'd like you to do to kind of test how well you masked your background, okay? I want you to first add a new layer. So this will be the first time we're actually adding a new layer and not just duplicating. So go ahead and click on Create New Layer. And I'm going to call this Test. Again, the layer button, it looks like a piece of paper with the corner folded up. And I want this to go in the very back. So remember, layers that are on top are up front, and then layers at the bottom go in the back. Any questions about that so far? Okay. The last thing that I want you guys to do, not the last, the next thing, we're actually going to go to the paint bucket again. But this time, I want you to actually double click on where it's black or white, whatever it might be right now, and you can actually change the color. So I will let you pick the color, but make sure it's a contrasting one. Don't make it yellow or green against that chair. It'll be really hard to see. I'm going to do maybe like a bright blue, whatever color you'd like. And then what we're going to do is paint the background and see how good we got it. Now, in all fairness, this image is a little pixelated, so it might look a little bit like this, but see if you can't smooth it out a little bit more so it looks less pixelated. Okay, that'll be your test on all of them, including the art space building and this chair right here. So in addition to what we did last class, you guys are adding a new layer with a different color background to kind of see what that looks like, what it's been isolated. The thing that I'm most concerned about, the thing that I'm really looking for, this is really minute, but do you see how there's like these white highlights that still exist, like right here and here? You can go through with the brush. Oh, if you want to reset to black and white, do you see this little black and white button right here? It's tiny, but you can click there and it takes it right back to black and white. But I'm going to go on my layer mask, and sometimes even, whoa, too big. I was going to say you can use a brush to mask it. My brush is way too big. Still way too big. I have to figure out how to bring the preview of my brush back in this brush mode. But you can use like a really soft brush to kind of help with those edges there.
clicking on that, well, to select the targets?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yep. Oops. So give that a try on all of your images and see what you can come up with. I have a quick class poll that I want you guys to take here in just a minute. So I'm going to go ahead and activate it. But you can come here going to pollev.com and then my name 194, or you can even do it from your cell phone, either way. But this is completely anonymous. I won't know who is submitting what answer, but I do want everybody who's here in the room tonight to participate. This will kind of let me know how to move on with class. So I will wait until I have 3, 6, 9, 12, 14 responses. At the majority of the responses here, we have a long weekend until we get back to class on Monday. And the exercises that we've done, I think, are going to be really helpful. So if you feel a little shaky or you need more practice, I would say go back to the assignments that we've done and keep trying to mask stuff. If you want to break off of the assignments, you can even go online and try to find some images to mask on your own. You could even take pictures on your phone and try to mask from there too. So I would say to start off, let's go ahead and be somewhat self-directed with masking. And that includes going through the YouTube lectures. So there was a question about where those lectures are. Let me show you guys. So at the end of every class, in our digital graphics class, if you guys go under discussions, there is a YouTube lectures and general discussion link. So if you click there, I will post our lectures, again, at the end of every night to this playlist right here. They just keep compiling so you can come back and keep watching those. So we'll have an additional one this evening. So try it first on your own, and then on Monday, what I'm going to do on Monday, just to let you guys know, we're going to have kind of like, I'm going to call it a quiz at the beginning of class. So make sure that you guys are here on time. I'll give you guys the first 15 minutes or so, and I'm going to give you an image, and I am going to ask you to mask it and then do some layer organization techniques. So hopefully that will motivate you guys to kind of study and brush up. And the same rubric will be used to kind of grade this quiz. You know, you get 5 points for doing it perfectly. You get 4 points for doing it pretty good, just missing a couple things, and then if you're not here, you won't get any points, okay? I might use one of the images that we've already used, but it might be something completely random. So whatever it is, just make sure that you feel comfortable masking, okay? We'll do that Monday, and then depending on how things go, I will decide what we need to review. But I think just based on half of you guys being comfortable, I think the rest of you should be pretty self-directed and getting caught up, okay? So with that, if you guys look at your schedule, we're kind of buying some extra lab time. I don't have it pulled up here to show you. But if you look at the 9th and the 11th, we are actually still supposed to be hanging out in object selection and masking. So I don't know if we need 2 more days on this. So I'm actually going to jump ahead to object transformations because that still ties into masking too. So it's not like we're completely going away from it. It'll still be there, it just won't be the dominant thing that we're talking about. Okay, let's continue with this. So go ahead and go back to the poll. Let me activate the next question. So far, how many hours outside of class have you spent on homework and practice? This is just for me to know if I'm giving you guys enough or too much homework. That's all. My hope is that you're spending between, let's say, 3 and 6 hours outside of class. We'll see how it goes, but and as we get further into the semester, when you guys are working on your own projects, that'll increase. So if you're really comfortable with Photoshop, you might only be spending an hour outside of class. But once you get into your own projects, you might start spending a little bit more. So please hop in and respond to that one. And then I'll activate the last question again. Right. That's good. Homework is right about where we want to be right now. For those of you guys not doing homework outside of class, I'm just hoping that you've been out of the country. Hi. Or perhaps you're getting it done in lab, and that's fine with me. But just make sure that, I don't know how else to put this except don't be the thing that hinders your success in this class, right? So put in the effort, put in the time. Don't be the thing that hinders your success. I have to say that every day, all the time. Okay, and then this last thing, this is always a hard thing for me to ask because I don't know how to fix it. There's lots of different levels of students that I'm essentially lecturing to in a given class, but up until this point, I kind of want to know how you guys feel about the pace of the class. This is also important to me because a lot of these programs, whether it's Photoshop, Revit, AutoCAD, they are kind of my native language, and so I'm trying not to speak it too fast to people who are just kind of learning the language. Okay, we're still waiting for just a few more. We'll see how this goes. Poltergeist. I don't know what that is, but it happens often. Okay, good. So I think that so far, I think the majority of people feel like it's just right and you have time to follow along. Great. I'm going to go ahead and start recording. So in class, we are getting this art space building ready for what we're adding to it next week. And then over the weekend, I'm actually giving you guys 2 more buildings to do. Let me show you what they look like. Again, they're not posted yet. I'm going to show you what they look like. Okay, so this is the first image of the building that I want you to isolate. And I just want the building and the structural columns. So I don't want any of the base. I don't want any of the trees. I know that there's like some overcrop here. We're going to fix that in about 2 or 3 weeks. So with this file, we're going to keep adding on to it. And then there's another file that we're going to keep adding on to as well. So let me pull up the other one for you. Assignments. Where did you go? Okay, I have a newer version of this one. You will also be isolating this along with some, this is the one that people don't like me for. They get mad when they see this one. I want you to isolate the paraglider and as many of these strings as you can. So you're going to have to zoom in quite a bit, get in there, but have any of you guys had the pleasure of visiting the Salk Institute in La Jolla, California? Okay. Uh-huh. Yeah. So this is so far my favorite building that I've gotten to see in person. And there's actually a I can't even think of the word, but there's a lot of people who come through with parachutes and like those little airplane gliders. So you'll always see those there. So we're going to build off of it. For now, we're just isolating, but eventually we're going to be adding these too. So for now, it'll be isolating. When we come back next week, we're going to learn how to just put them all together.